We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. Everything. And if you do as well, if you need a little bit of extra content to get you through the days, to get you through the nights, subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button. Share the video with your family and friends. If you are part of the PATC community, you have to have your head on a swivel. You never know what's coming next. So subscribe to our channel. This is our second live show in one day. We did a lunchtime live show. And most of it was a monologue. A lot of people they couldn't get to the show. So we had to do a live show tonight. We're going to be talking about the Bruce and Stu interview with Max Olson from The Athletic, the Audible, I have the link in the description box below the video. You can listen to the whole thing, but I'm going to provide you the bullet points in our PATC Chalk Talk. And a lot of stuff came out of that. Some good news for the Pac-12. Some stuff that we thought was happening, and it is happening. There is still some communication between some Big 12 schools, from Pac-12 schools with let's put it this way. Colorado is the wild card, baby. Colorado Buffaloes is the wild card. Arizona and Colorado are most receptive. They're most nervous about a Pac-12 future. But none of them want to leave. None of them want to leave the Pac-12. But they might be forced to leave the Pac-12. Hopefully we get clarity in a couple weeks. But we're going to be going through the bullet points of that. Then we're going to be talking about Dennis Dodd's tweet of tonight and the Stuart Mandel tweet that I had to question it. There are people saying that there's not any communications going on between the Big 12, Pac-12 schools and the Big 12 conference. And we know that is not true. Thank you for the donation. R. Webb, I appreciate you, good sir. Welcome to PATC, a Big 12 Karen-sponsored production. Cloak and Dagger, baby. Yeah, we're not a part of any plot here at Peek Around the Corner. We just tell you the way it is, or the way we believe it is. And so does 99% of the people out there do the same thing. Okay, yeah, tonight's a doubleheader. Tony, you got that right. Praise the Lord. Cornelius Green, Tu Master, Whoa, Nelly. A bullet point. We're going to be going through it all. The Stu, Bruce, the Audible. They had Max Olson on. Interesting comments. Very interesting comments. I'm going to give you the bullet points, but please listen to the whole podcast when this show is over. First of all, let's get right to it here. We got a beautiful sponsor for tonight's show and all of our shows. Welcome to the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. We invite you to discover the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference. Clean, hot air roasted coffee produces a smoother, richer, healthier coffee that is less bitter and less acidic. Our hot air roasted coffee uses convection heat to loft the beans for a very even heat transfer. The clean, bright taste that people rave about is achieved by roasting the bean quickly and evenly while suspended on a bed of hot air. From craft to cup, hand-picked coffee beans, the smoothest, the richest coffee me and the little general, the moderator, have ever had. So if you want to give this coffee a try, go to the link in the description box. And if you want to support our channel when you order these beautiful bags of beans, put down PATC in the comments section. We thank you very much. Very, very much. One other thing. We just opened up our merchandise store. There's a link in the description box below the video as well. In the next live show, I'll produce some real images of the products there. But we do have the official PATC mug that you're going to use when we do our Cloak and Dagger every single night. And again, it's all about Cloak and Dagger tonight. But again, go to the link in the description box. There's some merchandise. There's some hoodies. We got 7 different colors, all different shapes and sizes. We've got the pink hoodie. The moderator, the little general, has already ordered her pink hoodie. And on the front of that hoodie, there's this. College Football's Peek Around the Corner presents Cloak and Dagger. Drink whenever Greg says Cloak and Dagger. It only counts when Greg says it. Have fun and drink responsibly. So, once again, order that mug so you can sit there with your Diet Cola, or how we say it in Minnesota, your Diet Pop, your Pepsi, or your little bit of tequila in there, some whiskey, some coffee, some tea, whatever you drink. I appreciate it. So give it a look. Give it a look. Manny, I appreciate you coming into the house. Thank you for your super chat. Thank you for your generosity. I appreciate it, sir. R. Webb and Manny, thank you so very much. Okay. Now, let's get to it. I'm gonna go to the bullet points first. Give me just 1 second here. Let me get this thing rocking and rolling for everybody. Okay. Bullet points. This is the bullet points of the audio of the podcast with Stu and Bruce, the Audible. They had Max Olson on as a guest. This was just released, I don't know, about an hour and a half ago. I listened to it. I put down the bullet points. I think it was very interesting. Very, very interesting. But again, you don't have to take my word for it. Go listen to the whole podcast, and I provided a link in the description box. Bullet points. Lots of conversations during the Big 12 basketball tournament. This is with Max Olson at the Big 12 tournament, talking to a lot of people about what's going on Pac-12 and Big 12. The Big 12 is wondering what the Pac-12 media package will look like, just like the rest of us. They don't know. They don't know what it's going to look like. You see, we've been saying this for weeks at Peek Around the Corner. When other people were saying, oh, they got a $28 million deal, $35 million, $30 million, they're getting this, they're getting that. We said at Peek Around the Corner, the Pac-12 presidents haven't even received a comprehension deal in front of them to even hash out between them. Now, maybe that's starting to change. Maybe that's starting to change. Right before we came on air, we received some steam that the Pac-12 athletic directors are meeting tonight or having a conversation, Zoom, however you want to say it, but it's happening tonight. There is some steam. It could be good news. It could be very good news. But again, those Pac-12 presidents have not received a comprehension deal in front of them to hash it out. So, of course, the Big 12 people who are talking, they're not going to know what this thing looks like. They're anticipating Pac-12 might have a streaming deal, a heavily on the streaming part of it. And Brett Yormark obviously believes that there's maybe an opportunity to expand with his conference, to go coast to coast, starting with some Pac-12 schools. But they do not know what's going to look like. Not a lot of spin from the Big 12 officials. According to Max Olson, these are not Greg Pflugar talking points. These are not a plot that I'm a part of. This is what Max Olson said. Again, listen to the whole podcast. They were not giving him spin. Max Olson did not receive his marching orders from Big 12 officials. More clarity should come in the next 2 weeks. So this thing, if the Pac-12 can get a media deal done, get everybody signed, get it going, it's going to happen here. It's going to happen next 2 weeks. And if it doesn't, well, then we got some issues, don't we? Targets are Arizona and Colorado. Targets are Arizona and Colorado. Now, that doesn't mean that they're only going to go for 2 schools, the Big 12, but the targets are clearly Arizona and Colorado, according to Max Olson. Arizona and Colorado are more nervous about the Pac-12 future than the other 4 corner schools. Arizona and Colorado have been the most receptive from the Big 12. Schools initiated calls. Again, this is from Max Olson. You don't believe me? Listen to the podcast. Focus is not on just those 2 schools, but if any Pac-12 schools left, it would probably start with Arizona and Colorado. Does Arizona, Max Olson brings this question up, along with Stu and along with Bruce Feidman, Stuart Mandel. Does Arizona buy into Brett Yormark's vision on the basketball side of things? Big 12 is looking to unbundle their basketball content from their football content in 6 to 7 years and believes this will help the value of their basketball value. So Big 12, they have a vision. They're already the best basketball conference in the country. They're going to try to they're definitely going to try to add on Gonzaga, but they, again, with realignment, there's a domino effect, right? And it's starting with the Pac-12 schools. We'll see what happens. And then Yormark will turn his eyes to Gonzaga. But Yormark believes they can get more juice out of their basketball value if they unbundle it from their football when they go to market next. Does Arizona buy into Yormark's vision? Maybe yes, maybe no. But you know Yormark is talking with Arizona. Representatives of Big 12 are talking with Arizona because Arizona initiated the call, and we'll get to that more in a second. You remember Big 12, when they got the deal done, when they got the media deal done, the basketball is going to be on Fox Sports. A whole bunch of it. So where is the Pac-12 basketball content going to be? That's what Arizona is waiting on. Again, they do not know. They don't know. What are we, March 13th? Arizona doesn't know. Right? So we got to see how it plays out. And then Max Olson, he said it. Colorado is the total wild card. Deion Sanders, they talked about him. Colorado, they haven't had a good football program in 15 years. They haven't had a good football program, any success, since they left the Big 12. Now they got Deion Sanders. They need the maximum exposure. They went all in on Deion Sanders. Where's Colorado's football games going to be played? If Colorado's having a good season, where's their Tier 1 football games going to be played? On Amazon? On Apple TV? Versus what the other Power 4 conferences are doing with their tier top games of the week? Colorado is the total wild card. According to Max Olson, again, not from Greg Pflugar, the captain of the Endeavor plot to rip out schools from the Pac-12. That last part was a joke, by the way. Skeptical any schools leave to the Big 12 because it's realignment and often nothing occurs. Also, Pac-12 schools do not want to leave the others. It's academics. Been saying this over and over again. These Pac-12 schools do not want to leave each other. They do not want to leave each other. But what if they're forced to leave each other? What if the deal is so bad? So, yes, schools initiated talks with the Big 12, and they continue on until today. And they're not being told no. The Big 12 is not sitting here being told no every single day, and they don't understand the word no, like some people have said out there in Twitter and message boards with their ridiculous statements. No, it's just Arizona and Colorado, the rest of the Pac-12 schools are waiting for the comprehensive package to see in front of them, to make some difficult decisions, to risk being more on a streaming platform or to go for it and go to the Big 12. Max Olson doesn't believe, especially those three schools, doesn't believe it will happen. Ultimately, he believes that the Big 12 doesn't get any of those Pac-12 schools. But he does say talks continue, initiated by the Pac-12 schools. There is some nervousness, especially among Arizona and Colorado. On the podcast, they said George Kliavkoff needs to cater to Washington and Oregon. Treat them like they were USC and UCLA years ago, especially USC. Treat them better than you treated USC. Cater to Washington and Oregon. George Kliavkoff needs to do that right off the bat. They also said Pac-12 is not saying much of anything. When someone does speak in Pac-12 world, they believe they will get media deal done, which is similar to Big 12 in terms of money. It will be heavily streaming. And that, again, what we at Peek Around the Corner have said since October 30th, when Big 12 struck the deal. When they got their deal, it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the money. The money's going to be somewhere where the Big 12 is. It's about the visibility. It's about the exposure of Pac-12 sports, about the front porch of those universities. They don't want to leave each other. But you know what? They know that George Kliavkoff, Pac-12 leadership, screwed up by not taking an earlier deal. And people want to pretend that that's not the case. Well, that's not going to happen here at Peek Around the Corner. They screwed up. They can still save the conference. They can still get a deal done. They want schools they know their schools want to stay together. But we'll see if the networks play along, even the streaming platforms play along with George Kliavkoff. There are four corner schools still talking with the Big 12. This is obvious, but I wanted to make this the last point of Chalk Talk tonight. They're still talking with the Big 12. So if you're going to go out there and deny it and say that reporters are lying about this, they're not lying about it. They're talking. Some are nervous about what kind of deal they're going to finally see. So there's talks. Okay. So then, excuse me one second here. So, we got a tweet from Dennis Dodd, 5 o'clock this evening, about an hour and 38 minutes ago. Sources: the Big 12 continues to speak weekly to expansion candidates. You know, in that article that Dennis Dodd had that people just flipped out over, Dennis Dodd, he said sources believe that the Pac-12 could eventually implode in the next 2 weeks. He said that Washington and Oregon, there was questions about that, Big Ten looming over them. Dennis Dodd did not say for sure, definite, that the big Pac-12 was going to implode. He never said that. He did say that schools, that the candidates, that Big 12 and the Four Corners candidates schools, they were still talking weekly. And he's accurate on that. Now, we were told by some people on Twitter that he was not accurate on that. So maybe Dennis Dodd had some more accuracies in that article. Maybe he got some wrong. And then finally, when people question this, Stuart Mandel, when people went to Stuart Mandel on Twitter and said, no, there has been people who are questioning that the Big 12 schools, that the Big 12 conference is talking with Four Corners schools. Stuart Mandel says, I don't think anyone questions that the Big 12 has been talking to those schools as we reported. But I would say that some of the more dire characterizations of the Pac-12 situation do not mirror reality, at least based on the people I talked to. Stuart Mandel, he says, I don't think anyone questions that the Big 12 has been talking to those schools. No, there has been questions. People are doubting you, Stuart Mandel, and Dennis Dodd, and Brett McMurphy, and SBJ, and Athletic, Max Olson. They're saying that those are lies, that you're part of some pack. It's not true. Again, Max Olson just reported Dennis Dodd. I guess they're all lying still, right? Yes, there's communications back and forth. Nobody out there is reporting that it's definitely going to happen. They're just saying that the Pac-12, there's some nervousness. It could happen. Some schools could leave to the Big 12. That's what they're reporting. That's what their sources are telling them. And it's accurate. And if it's not accurate, they're definitely not lying to be part of some Endeavor plot. And then this last part. But I would say some more of the dire characterizations of the Pac-12's situation do not mirror reality. And some people are celebrating this as, oh, Stuart Mandel says, look, hey, he's above reproach. And he is. I got nothing against Stuart Mandel, but they're saying, oh, look, Pac-12, everything's going good. It's happy days. Because he says, but I would say some of the more dire characters, yes, I would agree. The ones that say it's already happened, that Colorado has already moved to the Big 12 and all that stuff, yes, those characterizations are false. But everything above that, well, anyways, I'm going to get to your comments right away here. I'm going to get to your phone calls. Tonight is the night that you all will speak, comments, phone calls, what you think of Max Olson, what he said in the Audible show tonight. and what you think of Dennis Dodd and Stuart Mandel. So I'm going to get to your comments, to your phone calls. Thanks for all coming in tonight. Appreciate it. Double duty, Greg. Absolutely. Doubleheader today. Thanks for coming in, Skull Ducky. Two Master. Whoa, Nelly. Thanks for coming in. Holy smokes, doubleheader. Will the thrill. I didn't know if anyone would show up, but I thought it was important. So thanks for all showing up. D5 Terps. Okay, I'm here. Let's get it started. I thought it was important. Big time podcast. Max Olson. Yeah, there's still communication going on. What do you think they're talking about, ladies and gentlemen? Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think they're talking about when they're talking? Huh? They think they're talking about the weather? Yes. Arizona, Colorado, they're trying to make sure if things don't work out, if that Pac-12 media deal isn't good enough, that there's a landing spot for them in April. If Washington and Oregon take off, if they take off, they want to make sure there's a landing spot for them in April. And why and how, why, that's what Dennis Dodd's been saying. That's what Sports Business Journal's been saying. That's what The Athletic's been saying. That's what Peek Around the Corner has been saying. That's what 365 Sports has been saying. I could go on and on and on. So how can all of them be lying and being part of some pack with Endeavor doing the marching orders? I'm going to keep going back to that because it's the most ridiculous thing I've read on Twitter in so many years. And I've read a lot of ridiculous things. Kevin Elvis, thanks for coming in. Oregon's new president doesn't start until July 1st. Oregon's new president coming from the University of Wisconsin. Pretty interesting. I don't think there's a lot to that. Don't think there's a lot of meat to the bone. But starting July 1st, you know, they can, if an opportunity pops for Oregon, look, Oregon's going to move on it with or without their new president. No question about it. Open up those phone lines. The people need to be heard. You are absolutely correct once again, Wild Dude. Let's do this thing. Let's open up those phone lines. Phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. Thank you, D5 Terps, for your generosity. Flugs. Sorry, a tad off topic. If the ACC and the Pac-12 were in play, who are the Big Ten's top priority programs aside from Notre Dame? Thanks for the show. Well, I'll get to that in a second. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it, Mr. Terrapin.
Call from
Wild Ute.
Wild Ute. Thanks for calling, my friend. What's going on? The floor is yours. What's happening?
Holy cow.
Holy cow.
What a bombshell. That is crazy stuff, hearing this Mandel interview. And you know what I took away from it? This is absolutely mind-boggling. This was actually said. But it aligns with some dorky financial analysis that I've done on these schools, too, that the U of A and Colorado aren't accretive to the Pac-12. They said that they don't even carry their own weight in this conference negotiation, and that if they were to go to the Big 12, the remaining schools would probably earn more money per school. What? That's nuts.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You know, they actually kind of said that in the podcast. Did you hear the podcast?
Yeah, I listened to the podcast this afternoon. I heard them say that, and I'm like, wow.
Yes, and I'm sorry I didn't put it as a bullet point. My bullet points would have ran. I didn't want to talk forever in the monologue, but thanks for bringing that up, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, that's massive news, though, because this is all, this is exposure, financially driven. We all know that. The Big 12 seems to want U of A so bad, but they don't even carry their own weight in the Pac-12. Nor does CU, apparently. That was just said, and that's just not some guy on Twitter like me doing my own financial calculations.
Well, first of all, you were accurate. Second of all, which is great, thank you. You absolutely nailed it. But And this brings into, and I'm sorry interrupting you again. I'm going to give you all the time you need, but you brought up some great points already in the 1 minute that you've been on. The value of a school can change depending on what conference they're in, though. So Arizona might think, if they're buying into this Yormark vision, they might be able to be more valuable to the Big 12 versus being in the Pac-12. You know what I'm saying? So it's an interesting debate. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and this is one of the things I haven't heard talked about at all. What's the vision for the Big 12? You pull in U of A, you're creating this basketball juggernaut. In a school like Utah that's focused on football. I mean, really, what does that mean for football? Does that diminish the importance of football in the conference? That's one of my concerns lingering in the background. And the more you add like a school like Arizona, the more you're doing that. I mean, Arizona's football team stinks.
Yeah,
Stunk for a long time.
And they don't. And there's a lot of correlation to it, but they don't get any viewership as well, which they said in the podcast. Again, Brett Yormark's vision is in the next media contract is to unbundle. See, when conferences go to negotiate their media rights with potential media partners, first with their current media partners, an exclusive window. Then if that doesn't happen, then they go outside and what they do is they bundle all their content together and they sell it together. Yormark's vision is they're going to separate the football and the basketball, and somehow he believes he's going to be able to get more juice out of it. I don't know if it's going to work, but does Arizona, like Max Olson said, does Arizona share that vision? Brett Yormark is making a big deal about basketball, and maybe that's pretty enticing to Arizona. I don't know if it's going to work, though. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Arizona, I mean, if I was an Arizona grad, I would be all over the Big 12. It makes so much sense in so many ways. And I just feel like, that's probably the domino to still fall. If CU goes with them, I'm just going to throw this out here. I know that you haven't talked a lot about this, but I know John Skipper from ESPN mentioned this. If CU and Arizona go to the Big 12, then I really think that the ACC makes sense for a lot of the other remaining schools. Not all of them, but a lot of the other schools like Stanford, Cal, Utah, Oregon, and Washington don't go to the Big 10. I think that makes sense for them too. I think it would add value to the ACC contract because you'd be adding new television households that are going to watch the ACC network, and plus there's some nuance there too with how that ESPN deal is structured for the ACC, where it would be actually financially advantageous to take on. I think that you're aligning academics with other schools that have that alignment, and the brands too. I think that that's making more and more sense, especially if the Big Ten doesn't come gobbling up Oregon or Washington. I really think that the ACC thing could come into play and become more clear. I know that amongst youth fans, I mean, the ACC is something that a lot of them are kind of chattering about a little bit. They want something like that. They're interested in it. And, if you can work out the long-term Gore piece, then there might be some alignment there. Just some food for thought to think about.
You bring up another great point, and you brought it up before. And let's do a post-mortem on Greg Pflugar. I was wrong because I think you brought it up to me before. And I kind of said, nah, it's not going to work. Nah. But now I find it intriguing. And I think it may be something that we're going to have to peel open some more, Wild Dude. If, and it's a big if because, and they said this on the podcast, when it comes to realignment, often things don't occur, right? Things bubble up, percolate, last moment, it doesn't happen. But if two of those four corner schools go to the Big 12 and everyone is starting to fear that Oregon and Washington sooner or later are going to jump into the Big 10. Now we look at the ACC, right? Utah, Stanford, Cal, the schools you mentioned, and
ASU,
and I'm starting to think that might work because and everything you just said. The ACC network, you get that out in the West Coast. Maybe you rebrand the whole conference as an all-coastal conference instead of ACC, Atlantic Coast Conference. But would that network, ESPN, Disney, put a lot of money into that network. And it's actually working for the ACC schools. That's why they're right in line with Big 12 conference payouts right now because of the ACC network. It isn't because of their Tier 1 contract that's pathetically low right now and will be for many years. It's because of their conference network that's giving them that extra money that the Big 12 and the Pac-12 schools don't enjoy right now. So, again, but I would flip it to, would Florida State, would North Carolina, would Miami, Florida, would Clemson, would they really want that to happen? That part, Yeah.
I've got the solution for that, okay?
Okay.
And it's not the perfect solution, but you really would have to go to unequal revenue sharing.
Okay.
But you'd have just more money in the pot here by adding more states to the ACC network.
Sure.
So you add Utah, you add ASU, Stanford, Cal, Oregon and Washington would come along if they're not in the Big Ten. So you add those 6. So we've got that wing. And then you'd have to go to unequal revenue sharing just to make it all work.
Yeah.
But still, I think that the payouts would be, for a team like Utah or ASU, would probably be in line with what the Big 12's making right now. But you've just got that alignment more. But I think that's got to be in play, the unequal thing.
Yeah. Great call. Great call. And again, I kind of said, nah, wow, dude, when you brought this up a while back, and I said, nah, but now I think you're onto something. Wow, dude, you're either on something or you're onto something. I'm not sure which one, but I think you're onto something.
Hey, I live in Utah, not Colorado, so.
Okay. All right.
All right, thanks, Greg.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Great phone call. Thank you. D5 Terps, Flug, sorry, a tad off topic. If the ACC and the Pac were in play, if the schools were available, who are the Big Ten top priority programs aside from Notre Dame? Thanks for the show. Thank you, Mr. Terrapin, for coming on in. I would, Oregon and Washington, Florida State, Miami of Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, in no order, right? Those 6 schools would definitely be in play. Oregon, Washington, Florida State, Miami of Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, possibly Georgia Tech. Those are the schools. But thank you so much for the generosity. Appreciate it, Mr. Terp. Okay, back to your phone calls. 763-260-1333. Call in. The floor is yours. You can talk about anything you want in college football. Early this morning, we again went over the Heisman Watch. We got number 1, Caleb Williams. Number 2, Drake May. Number 3, Michael Penix Jr. Number 4, Marvin Harrison. Number 5, Judkins, the great running back from Ole Miss Rebels. Can't wait to watch him this year. And number 6, Brock Bowers of Georgia. Let me know what I got wrong in the top 6 way too early Heisman Watch. Let's talk college football. Yeah. Will Doot. Great call. Excellent call. Midair. The moderator's checking in. The Little General, good job at the store, my boy. And thanks for all the support from everyone. Yeah, thank you so very much. A lot of action going on at our new store. The link is at the bottom in the description box. Appreciate it.
Call from
Larry Pilgrim.
Larry Pilgrim's in the house. Thanks for coming on in again. The floor is yours,
Hey, Greg,
sir.
All right, thanks, Greg. So, I've got a couple questions. So, I keep hearing $220 million. So, my question is, if Amazon and Apple have been very tight-lipped and don't want the numbers out there, how do we know that's for sure? And then when it comes to ESPN, Pete Thamel was the original reporter, which is actually kind of a conflict and a disclosure, in my opinion, of driving down. I've been in contracting all my life, and you know, you get numbers out there to drive pricing down. So ESPN is the one that reported the original stuff through Thamel, correct?
Well, are you talking about the 220 million or?
Yeah, I keep hearing everybody keeps saying it's 220 million, and
Yeah,
I
don't think anyone knows what it is. I don't think the Pac-12 schools know what it is. I think, and I haven't seen Pete Thamel say 220. If he has, send me a link, and I'll take a look at it.
Well, everybody's saying it's 22 million.
I don't know who that. But send me a link. And
well, it's a bunch of people. So it's not.
Yeah.
I'm listening to people that have read the writers.
Okay.
And so that's who if people like you, like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not going to some of these websites and reading Pete Thamel's stuff. I'm hearing stuff that you're reporting that he's written. So that's kind of what I haven't been reading their articles. I'm just getting my information.
Sure.
You know, from people like you.
Yep.
And so I keep hearing 220, and I'm like, I did hear that Pete Thamel was the original one, and everybody's like, well, it's coming from this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy, and it's like, well, Pete Thamel reported it originally, and then this guy is going off of Thamel, and then this guy is going off of him. So this multi-source crap, it's like one person writes it, everybody else just follows it up, and now we have 5 writers saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not what's happening.
Yeah. Lee now I remember. Lee brought in the chat here while you're talking, says it was Dennis Dodd that reported the 220. And when Dennis Dodd said 220 million, 22 per team, I believe he gave it a range, and 22 was the low point, because I remember listening to him. And just to clarify, I think that's the best that anyone can do is give a range, because as we have said here at Peek Around the Corner, we've been told from Arizona State Money Perch and a few other people that we've gotten contacted with, but Arizona State Money Perch, who's nailed this story from the beginning, there is no reported deal that they have voted on, that they've even started hashing out on. And I'll give you an example, Larry. I don't know how to explain this, but, and I'm not going to get the email up, but these reports that's, you know, it's 30 million, 32 million, 23 million, 25 million, 22 million. A lot of the things that supposedly, what we've been told, that have been shown to these Pac-12 presidents is deals that are projections of what a media company would pay for a certain part of the slice of the content of the entire Pac-12 media content. But a lot of these media companies, they're offering for the same type of content. So there's an overlap, right? So what they haven't seen yet, what we've been told, and it seems to be true because other people are now starting to report it, is that they haven't seen, like, this is option A, this is option B, this is option C. Option A, these are the media companies. This is what each of those companies' content, Pac-12 content that they will have, and this is what they're willing to pay for it. And therefore, your school will show up on this platform so many times per year on average, and this platform so many times per year per average. the Pac-12 presidents have yet to see those options that are comprehensive, that are, this is it, this is it, this is it. So it's hard for anybody to say, at least from my perspective, Larry, how much this deal is going to be worth. Yeah, it could be 31, could be 32, could be 30. I don't even think they know yet.
Right, and I'm with you there. I'm with you there. I think there's still a lot of negotiating.
Yeah.
Well, possibly going on. They're trying to figure out a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I'm a Utah fan, and it's like I'm constantly having to defend Utah against like Big 12 people, and they're like, they hate us now, and it's like,
yeah.
Look, we're just like you guys. We're not any different than any other fan of any other team.
Yeah.
And so, when the AD went on, he should have said, give it a break, not give me a break. I really think that he was more like, during that piece, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I don't speak for him. I think he literally was like, give it a break. Like, could we just stop? And instead, that one word, was all it took. Was instead of him saying, give it, he said, give me.
Yeah.
And that was, and that was the thing. And everybady's making the biggest deal out of it and trying to read into it.
That's
and
a good
also,
take.
Yeah, and also Michelle Bakken, she repeated a lot of everything I've already been following. She didn't really come out with anything enlightening other than, if there is a streaming service like Amazon or Apple, this would be the first collegiate legal situation that it would be in with the grant of rights, and that's going to take a little bit of. So that's the only thing I've heard from her that was a little interesting that I haven't really heard. But I've followed Michelle. She's very reputable reporter. She does not report on something that has any doubt of being not being true. Mm-hmm. So just a little heads up. She's very good about her reporting. So. So I know she got attacked by quite a few people, and it's like she didn't really write anything that nobody else has, already said.
I did I can't remember. I did a live show or an episode discussing her article. I read it.
Yeah.
I broke it down. She brought up some good points. I'm glad she wrote it. We needed a different perspective because a lot of communications only been coming from the Big 12 side. I agreed with her on the Apple TV and the Amazon. That's probably why it's taking a little bit longer. Where I disagreed with her on is she said, I can't find anybody saying that there's some, I'm paraphrasing it here, but that there's some struggle going on in there in the Pac-12 negotiations. When Ray Anderson said it out in public, that there's frustration, that the deal isn't going to be what they thought it was going to be. So she did not. What?
Yeah, well, the thing is who's not going to be frustrated when George tells you $50 million?
Yeah, well,
which of course, they're not getting 50. So if you're being told 50 for 6 months, 8 months, however long he was telling these people that, and I'm sure he had to drop some numbers on them.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're being told, hey, the best we're going to get is $350 million, Tier 1. ESPN, but everybody's got to sign a 12-year grant of rights.
Yeah.
That was of course nobody's getting what they were promised.
Yeah.
So, and I think, when Ray Anderson says I'm frustrated, what part? Because he never clarifies what part. So I think saying Michelle was off, it's gray. It's a gray area.
I would
Ray
ask,
Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would ask you to watch that Ray Anderson interview because he was frustrated about the process that the Pac-12 is going in. They were not, like you said, we're not going to get what they expected. But he also said they thinks they were going to get the financial part of it to keep the conference together. So he's optimistic on that. And again, like P. Duke 68 says here in the chat room, and I agree, she did infer that other people may not be making stuff up, but she was attacking other people's sources. I didn't appreciate that as well. But overall, I'm glad she wrote it.
She just, to give everybody some insight to her,
Yeah.
She is very, very, very connected at the University of Utah. She is very connected. So that's why I'm saying her credibility, this woman has never said anything that's even been controversial. She's very well connected at the university and has been. She's, she's had press pass forever. She knows everybody up there. She knows professors. She knows admin. She literally is very connected there. And so I think she got beat down a little bit. She can't speak for, like you're saying, she can't speak for Arizona. She can't speak for Oregon. But when it comes to Utah, if Michelle says something, I do believe it.
Got it.
And she didn't confirm that she knew exactly anything. So I thought it was a good piece.
And she said what other people have said, things can change. Right? She said that in the article. Things can change.
Well, a human being can think one thing.
Yes.
I'm not going to buy that car, and then they wake up the next morning and go, you know what? That might just be the best thing for me to do.
Oh, what if a media company? What if ESPN just backs out entirely right now? Okay, she didn't know that. Or what if a media company comes in and offers every school in there $38 million? Dennis Dodd wouldn't know that. So things can change. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, and then it's getting old, the Pac-12 and the Big 12 fighting over for the scraps. The Big 10 and the SEC might throw us, through ESPN and Fox, and here we are bickering back and forth.
Yeah.
When we're all being relegated. I mean, think about it. Both conferences, even, I don't know about the ACC. I can't speak for them. I'm not real savvy on them, but Pac-12 and Big 12, whether they stay together, they're relegated. They're both relegated. So, and if it ever goes to these universities can start using some of this revenue to pay athletes, I mean, that is just, you want to talk about a horrible situation for college football.
Well,
that is just pathetic.
Yeah. Thanks for the phone call, man. Awesome.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you so very much. Beautiful. Great phone call. Yes, we're talking about the Audible with Stu and Bruce. Early in the show, we went through the bullet points. We can do it again later on, but when more and more people join the show, a lot of good information in there. Max Olson. Yes, Oregon hired a new president. Starts July 1st. Wondering if an interim would sign any grant of rights before. Possible that no deal in the pack until summer. We brought it up in today's earlier this show. We're talking about, Larry just said it, Apple TV, Amazon. Are they both in discussions with the Pac-12? It might take a while. It might go past these 2 weeks. Maybe Washington and Oregon would like for these negotiations to go back past the next 2 weeks. Maybe it plays better into their what they would want as a timetable. Monovision, come on, nobody gives a comprehensive number before Arbor Day. People are giving out ranges and they can kind of calculate, but there's been a lot of reports at 22 million, 25 million, 30 million. And that's just isn't what's going on in our opinion here at Peek Around the Corner. Larry Pilgrim, go Utes, $5 super chat. Thank you, Larry, for the call. Thank you for your generosity to the show. I appreciate it. Great phone call. The Utah Utes are bringing it tonight. They're bringing it in the phone calls. Can anybody match Utah? I don't know. Monty Show reporting 22 million. I don't know. I don't know about that. I've watched maybe 15 minutes of that show.
Call from
Jim Brockoff.
Jim? Is that the name?
Hey, Greg.
How you doing, sir?
Great. Hey, I'm not sure. I think it goes back to the ESPN and Fox. What do they want? I don't think it's what the schools want.
Yeah.
I don't think it's what the conferences want. I don't think it's what the commissioners want. The ones paying the bills are Fox and ESPN for the most part.
Yes, sir.
And Amazon can maybe include that. So what do they want is, I think, the big question. And I know Fox is supposedly not bidding on Pac-12, so I guess they feel they have some with USC and UCLA.
Yep.
But what are they going to pay for? I know ESPN has a pro rata with the Big 12 on any Power 5 team. That Fox does not, but that doesn't mean Fox won't pay for someone.
Yep.
I don't know who they're interested in. And going back to basketball, with Yormark separating it, he's supposedly tight with the media companies. I don't know if he is or not. That's some of the reporting I've heard.
I think he
And he
is.
got that deal done.
Yes.
So I think they've told him possibly to try to get some West Coast teams for after dark, type TV for football. And I think they are pushing the basketball contact. And why he wants to separate the deal is probably because the media companies are telling him they can separate it. And they'll pay for, I think it was Bob Thompson, which was a former Fox executive, that said they pay for rivalries or high-quality games. And in basketball, Big 12, especially if they'd add Gonzaga, Arizona, I've heard rumors of Big East teams. If KU's playing Arizona, that's a big game.
Yes, sir.
Houston's playing Gonzaga. That's a big game.
Yes, sir.
Connecticut playing, Baylor.
Yep.
Those are going to make the TV.
And women's basketball.
money.
And women's basketball. Yep.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Yep.
Especially, Connecticut and
Yep.
Baylor and
Yep.
some of the other. Yeah, yep. So I think that's where your mark's coming from.
Yes, sir.
And I think the media, especially ESPN and Fox, are telling him what to do, and he's acting on that. Now, I'm not as smart as your Mark or the TV stations, but that's my feeling. I could be way wrong. I don't know what they value and what they don't, but that's basically my call.
Yeah, beautiful call. Man, great call. Thank you for calling. Call again,
Oh, no
sir.
problem.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Holy smokes. Boy, we always get great calls, but tonight, holy smokes. Wow, the elite level of calls. Yeah, your Mark, is he close with Eastern Media? Oh, definitely he is, and you could just see, he gravitated towards them. They gravitated towards your Mark. He got the deal done. He wants to go national, all the way to East, West. Like the caller said, he wants to increase the bandwidth of content to make it more valuable for his current media partners, and they're egging him on. I mean, like the caller said, Jim, he said Fox and ESPN, this is what they want. They want the Big 12 to go to the West Coast. Yormark's not doing this without the consent of his media partners that he just signed a 6 to 7 year deal. They're backing him on this. It doesn't mean that he's going to be successful in his top targets of the Four Corner schools. It doesn't mean that. But he's getting some communication to him saying, we'd be for this, we'd be for that. And if he fails on getting any of the Four Corner schools, Gonzaga's sitting there, maybe Fresno State, maybe San Diego State, to finally get into California. Who knows? We'll see. Great call. I don't know. This PATC community, little too smart for the host. Some great calls. Not a little too smart, way too smart for the host.
Call from
Soap.
All right, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, howdy from Texas.
How are you doing from Texas?
We're doing great. Really enjoyed the show.
Good.
Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to kind of put this out there. Obviously, I'm Big 12 backer, but there's a lot of talk about Utah not wanting to go to the Big 12 and that holding things up. And I mean no disrespect to the fine people of Utah, but quite frankly, BYU is already part of the Big 12, and there are only 4 million people who live in Utah. So I'm going to guess that the Big 12 already has the Utah market. And a lot of talk about, the rivalry they have between them, the holy war. Well, if the people in Utah, at University of Utah, don't put any emphasis on it and importance in playing BYU on a regular basis, then why should anybody else? It's not a rivalry if one part doesn't want to partake in it.
Sure.
So my point is that really, if you look at what might be best for the Big 12, looking at expansion, and specifically if the University of Utah chooses not to become, to accept an offer, if it's a problem with our education system, they can go become part of the Ivy League if that's what they want to do. But I think San Diego State University in San Diego would be a great step into the Western time zone and get a lot of eyes into the San Diego, Los Angeles market, and more importantly, open up that whole area of the country to recruiting for us down here in Texas and other parts of the Big 12. I just think that San Diego State might actually be a better match for the Big 12 as opposed to Utah. So that's it for me.
Yeah, got it. Great call. Thank you so very much.
Appreciate it.
I like how the caller said that San Diego State might be a better match for the Big 12. Not a more valuable school overall, but a better match for the Big 12. Some good points are made. Utah is a great school, great research university, AAU, a fan base that actually goes to the games, a fan base that actually watches other Pac-12 football. One of the problems Pac-12 country has is Pac-12 country doesn't watch Pac-12 content, but the Utah Utes do. So, a very valuable school. But I do understand your point. Also, forget the point that I was going to make, and I wrote it down. In regards to big games, the Holy War, here in Minnesota, we've heard about the Holy War. So I think it is big for everybody. I think people understand the BYU-Utah situation. It would be great if they could play in the same conference. I don't think it's going to happen. But the point, when you listen to the podcast, the Audible, and we went through the bullet points, and we're going to go through them real quick here shortly for people who weren't at the start of the show. Max Olson, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but again, listen to the podcast yourself. But if the Big 12 was successful in grabbing some Pac-12 schools, it's Colorado, it's Arizona, and if they grab those schools, if the Pac-12 media deal is so bad that Colorado and Arizona basically feel like they don't have a choice and they would join the Big 12, maybe that would untie Arizona State and maybe not still even untie Utah to the Pac-12. So the whole Utah talk has to be placed in the back burner. Utah really, really doesn't want to leave the Pac-12. None of these schools do, but Utah isn't really the target right now. In Arizona State, as we have said, as Arizona State Money Perch told us all the way back to January 31st, and my goodness, it's March 13th right now. But he said Arizona State can't move until Arizona moves first. So we know that Arizona State is not, if you're going to grab two first, it's not going to be Arizona State. And it's not going to be Utah. So it's going to be Colorado and Arizona. And you can kind of see the interest, the possible shared vision, possible shared vision between Arizona and Yormark. Of course, Arizona, you know, academically, research-wise, they don't want to leave those Pac-12 schools. But you can see when it comes to athletics, maybe Arizona, maybe they feel like they're going to have to make the choice. And then Colorado, Max Olson says they are the wild card. They are the wild card. So, back to your phone calls. The phone line is open. 763-260-1333. Utah is marching, Greg. Up in enrollment, $1 billion in research by 2025. Yes, an excellent school. Larry Pilgrim, Salt Lake is 100% U of U territory. Provo is a home of BYU. People outside of Utah have no clue who has the base 2022.
Call from
Rebecca, go ahead.
Rebecca, thanks for calling. The floor is yours, Miss Husky.
Well, hi, Greg. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing, ma'am? What's going on?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Very good. It's sunny today here in Seattle. It rained earlier, but it's sunny right now. It's like a great thing. It's going to be 60 this week. I'm living the high life here.
Yeah, we still got snowbanks like this in Minnesota. What's going on?
Oh, my gosh. No, like that interview, my God.
With Max Olson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Yeah.
The whole Arizona, Colorado, like if they left, the schools would get more money. I'm like, oh my God. It's like when you hear that, though, you wonder, like, is ESPN or Fox really willing to put out more money for those two schools if they're basically going to, like, especially in ESPN is like, we'll just give the Pac-12 more money.
I think they were insinuating that the value of the 8 remaining Pac-12 schools, if Arizona and Colorado would leave, it wouldn't go down. The problem is, though, that the Pac-12 would have to add a couple schools. So overall, the value would go down eventually But
just hearing that, like, the other schools stand, and I think they'd have to add 2 more schools. I think they'd have no choice. I think, like, in an NCAA rule, you have to have 10 to be a conference. I think it is.
Yeah. They need the inventory. They would have, if they lose 2 schools, they couldn't go with 8. There is something to say about security with numbers, right? They would have to add on.
They would. And I mean, like, at that point, it doesn't matter who you add because there's nothing like, even the schools that the Big 12 added aren't, I mean, we'll just use Oklahoma State as the example. They're probably the school that's worth the most in the Big 12. It's like, yeah, UCF and BYU has a pretty good following, and but they're not. Even they lost money when you really think about it by adding 4, but they had to have inventory
and they got stability.
But they did grab probably the 4 that were worth the most, which makes sense. So, like BYU, for instance, like people have said this, like that was the quality opponent that was non-conference that the schools could add, and they could just play them whenever because they were independent. So it just worked out perfectly. But I mean, like the fact that it's just the schools in the 3 states around the 4 corners that are the ones that are constantly being talked about is just the strangest thing to hear, because you would assume, and I think we could all agree, every school probably has reached out to every single conference. Like there's no, like, you're not gonna just not reach out to the ACC because it's out there. But I would bet Washington, Oregon, everybody's reached out to the ACC as well. But Oregon and Washington are the two key pieces to all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can't disagree on that. Like, the entire reason that they may even be approaching numbers that are similar to the Big 12 is because of those two schools.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're the reason why, and they're the two that have been absolutely the most quiet. And granted, Washington's school president has definitely seen more information than, other school presidents for obvious reasons. She's the lead of the CEO group. But, I mean, we all, everybody keeps saying, like, if they want to go, like, I'm just at that point where I'm like, if you want to go.
Yeah.
We'll be fine without you. Like, we'll figure it out. But
again, they haven't seen the comprehensive deal in front of them yet.
Yeah.
There's go ahead, finish your call, and then I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, no. I was just gonna bring up that brings me to the next point is.
Yeah.
If nobody has seen it, maybe I don't even think Washington has seen it. And, she's in charge, but she's probably gotten a feel for the numbers more so than the others.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll just be blunt here. If ESPN and Fox decide, hey, we'll get if you want to get up to 16, and Washington and Oregon did back channel their way to the Big 12 because. As of now, I mean, nobody's going to the Big Ten. They don't have they have an acting commissioner who's technically working on the draft for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
So, like, there's nothing happening there on that front. But if they back channeled and did talk and say, I can't see them going to the ACC and Florida State causing all that. Like, that would just be a headache for essentially 6-7 years. At a minimum. But if they back channel their way, Yormark's not saying no to those two. They're just never going to say no. And then you have this position where which two from, and again, I think it's all media members that are going to choose these schools, which two would the media partners prefer? Arizona's got great basketball, but as I told a couple of friends this weekend, with Washington deciding to keep their head basketball coach, I said if Washington ever cares enough about basketball like they do football, it's game over. Like they could put together a pretty decent squad within a couple of years without a problem. So I'm just saying it out there. Great, Greg.
Yep.
Love that you bring up these great discussions and you bring up great debates amongst everybody.
Yep.
And I just want to leave on that. In your opinion, if Washington and Oregon called, which of say all 10 schools did call, which 4 would they end up having to choose?
The Big 12 would be Washington, Oregon.
Then you get tricky.
Yeah. It gets
tricky.
Probably Arizona because of Brett Yormark's vision. And I don't know. I don't know about the fourth one. That's a good question. Let me marinate on that.
Yeah, we'll do, Greg.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Go
Great
on.
call.
Have a great day.
Great call.
Yeah.
Let me hit on a couple points here. There's really two undeniable truths going on here. I think they're the two tent poles of what's happening. There has been no comprehensive deal put out in front of these Pac-12 presidents. So there is no school going, that's not good enough, we're out of here. Or that is good enough, let me sign, where do I sign? That is not where we're at in the process. Now there's frustrations to that. There's sources talking about that. They're worried that maybe the visibility of the deal isn't going to be good enough. But there hasn't been that comprehensive deal put out in front of them. That is one of the tent poles of the situation. The other tent pole is Big 12 Conference. There are people talking with some of the Pac-12 schools. There's communications representing the Big 12 and some Pac-12 schools. It's going on continuously. And that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. If some of those schools, if the Pac-12, some of the Pac-12 schools wasn't receptive to the communication. It's not like Brett Yormark is a stalker. It's not like Colorado has said, no more calls. No, please, no. There's not a restraining order placed on Brett Yormark from the University of Colorado, from Arizona, and probably not from Arizona State, and probably not from Utah. So there's communications because both sides want there to be communications. And it's been brought up even in an article today by, I can't remember who it was. Well, Max Olson said it in the podcast, but it was also brought up. The schools initiate the calls. And it's going on. Now, there's people out there on Twitter who say it's not happening. But it is. It is. And you know why it's happening? It's not because Arizona... Because these schools are responsible, the athletic director, the president, to attract the best students possible. They build up the research arm of the university. They have certain academic standards. The front porch of the university is so valuable to these universities. And they're trying to negotiate a possible landing spot if the Pac-12 deal isn't good enough, or if Oregon and Washington take off. And that's not in their control. Arizona doesn't control what Washington and Oregon's going to do. They can't control what the Big Ten's going to do. Arizona and Colorado, they don't control what Washington, they don't control the situation. And nobody controls if ESPN's going to do massive layoffs in a month and they say, no, you know what, we got to walk away. Nobody controls Apple TV saying, you know what, if we're not going to get the whole enchilada, we're not even going to be the rice or the beans to this meal. So these schools are talking. And again, Stuart Mandel in a tweet. I don't think anyone questions that the Big 12 has been talking to those schools, as we reported. Oh man, there's so much questioning out there. And I'm not blaming Stuart. He's not listening. He's not reading Twitter, and he's not following these people. But I had to point out, well, let me get back to what I said. For those late to the show, actually, this is my tweet back. Actually, some people have been questioning if it's true any Pac-12 schools initiated calls to the Big 12 and are continuing to contact the conference, clumsily attempting to characterize the conversation as, how many times do I need to tell you no? You've seen them. You've seen the people out there. Right? And no, I don't think they're part of any group either, coordinated, because they're not doing a very good job, first of all. But, so, those are the two tent poles. No comprehensive deal has been placed in front of the Pac-12 presidents. And yes, some Pac-12 schools are still communicating with the Big 12. Okay, back to your phone calls. The number is 763-260-1333. Pac-12 probably has a deal. They just aren't releasing it because it's so low no members will agree to it. I don't think that's the case.
Call from
Randy.
Randy.
Hey, Greg, great show.
How you doing, sir? The floor is yours.
Hey, man, I'm just
totally confused here, man. I'm an old school college football fan.
Yeah.
And I just can't. Something's got to give. We need to go from cloak and dagger to something's got to give. I mean, you can't. I mean, if you're telling me that networks are fueling expansions, how are you going to sit there and?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They're fueling consolidation, more likely. But go ahead.
Yeah, but you can't piecemeal consolidation, Greg. You can't say, I don't want to watch UCF in Cincinnati. I want to watch Stanford and Cal. You know what I mean? I'm a Penn State fan.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? You can't piecemeal this together. Wherever they want to take it, they just sit down at the table and say, let's pick the 30 best schools, and that's it. You know what I mean? Fans got to start standing up for this crap. I don't want to hear about UCF in Houston. You know, so you better, somebody, if there's a network person listening to this, you better step up. You better sit there and you can't leave Stanford and Cal and Oregon and Washington, or even Oregon State and Washington State out there on an island somewhere.
You make a great point. You make a very great point. The only thing I would say is, even though the networks control a lot of this, they don't quite control it all, right? You still have ties that bind. You still have the Big Ten ties that bind, SEC, even the Pac-12. If it wasn't for those historical ties, those academic schools want to be with each other, commonality, Pac-12 would have imploded long before now. But because they have the ties that bind, you know, I don't think Penn. No, maybe there's a super league that gets formed, okay, years down the road, but I don't think Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan are ever going to say, let's keep the Big Ten, but let's kick out Northwestern, right, or Purdue, or Minnesota, or whoever, because there still is this historic ties that bind these schools together. Unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, the reality is that some schools look like they're going to be left out that shouldn't be left out. Some schools are going to be in when maybe they shouldn't be in.
But what if the reverse happens, Greg? What if you're wrong? What if they say, okay, you know what? Now that we control this is the team you're going to take next. You're going to take Pitt next because we want the Pitt-Penn State rivalry. Or you're going to have to dictate, we're going to dictate that you take this school.
Wow.
I mean, they've already done it with the whiteout game at Penn State. They didn't play the Ohio State-Penn State game at night at a whiteout. They made it at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. The reverse has sort of already happened. I'm just saying it quite hasn't taken over everything. But you're right. The networks are dictating a lot of this. No question about it. They're saying what...
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I get it.
I'm just saying, something's got to give, man.
Yeah.
You can't leave Stanford out there and Cal out there and then bring in UCF and Cincinnati and say they're going to be at the table.
Yeah, that's... It's a great point. It's an absolutely great point, and something's got to give. Something's got to give,
and
I think
cloak and dagger.
I think that's going to be on the next mug. Something's got to give, or give me a break.
Go Penn State.
Give me a break, and something's got to give. Those are the next two mugs. Medea, the moderator, put it in. Thank you so much.
All right, go Penn State.
Randy, great call. Tony says, great. Gerald Jones, a Buckeye, says to a Nittany Lion, caller nailed it. Holy smokes. if I could just leave the room and just let the phone calls go and let's listen to you guys, the show would be a lot better.
Call from
Moen.
Mr. Buckeye is following Nittany Lion. Oh my goodness, the floor is yours. What do you got to say, sir?
Well, first off, I agree with you, Greg. I don't ever think we'll see relegation within the confines of the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah.
You're right. The historical ties that bind the stewardship we have in our conference, the equal revenue sharing, it's just something I don't think we'll ever see. But touching on Arizona and Colorado, I see a lot of people saying, well, why would they leave to join the Big 12? There's something to be said about being a master of your own fate.
Yeah.
I mean, the other 6 schools are waiting on Oregon and Washington. Maybe Colorado and Arizona say, hey, you know what? We're our own schools. We want to secure our spot. Because we know in 5 years, as soon as the Oregon and Washington get the call, they're gone.
Yeah.
So your media deal is only going to last as long as Oregon and Washington don't get the call. So if Oregon and Washington get the call in 3 years, they're gone. I mean, secure your future for the next 5 to 10 years in the Big 12. Get your seat at the table first. It's, I hate to date myself here, but it's like being in the 1970s and being an investor at Burger Chef, and then Wendy's pops up and you say, oh, why would I want to go to Wendy's when I'm at Burger Chef and we've got 400 locations? They've got 100. 5 years later, 10 years later, Wendy's has got 600 locations and Burger Chef's out of business. So, and like we said last week, there's no reason for the Pac to look at Colorado State except as a replacement for Colorado.
Yeah.
So there has to be some smoke there.
Yes, another great point. Man, I'm missing everything, but you guys are cleaning up after me. Great point. Colorado's the wild card. That's the name of the show. That's what Max Olson said today. And then Moen Vision reminds us all, or at least this host, Colorado State was brought up in some reports from John Canzano himself out in the West Coast, saying that they're one of the possible 4 expansion candidates. In Moen Vision, he lays it on the line, saying, look, they are, because Colorado might be out the door. Yeah, great
Well,
comment.
and the other point I would bring up is Colorado has historical ties, like you just mentioned, historical ties that bind. Colorado has ties to a lot of those schools that are in the Big 12.
Iowa State, Kansas State.
Yeah. They have ties. So, it's not out of the realm of possibility to think Colorado might want to go back there as the wild card. And will the Pac survive that? Sure, the Pac would survive Colorado and Arizona leaving until Oregon and Washington leave. So, got to be a master of your own fate.
Wow.
I do think that's what will happen is Colorado and Arizona will join the Big 12. Whether Arizona State decides to tag along, Utah probably won't. But, I could also see Arizona State joining in and San Diego State rounding them out.
Well, like our Arizona State guy said, Arizona State's not moving until Arizona moves. So we'll see.
Yeah.
They're not the master.
And once all that happens, Big Ten will go in there and get Oregon and Washington for a penny.
Yeah. Wow.
But great show, Greg.
Great
Just wanted
call.
to touch base.
Thank you, sir. Wow. These phone calls, man. There's no community like the PATC community. Jared Jones, Buckeye, 2 live shows in 1 day, needs a super chat. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, sir, for your continued generosity to this show, Jared. I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. You're keeping the lights on for us, Mr. Jones. I appreciate it. And again, for people new to the channel, subscribe to our channel. This is our second live show. because, things happen. We don't know when we're going to come on next. We follow the story. We follow everything in college football. This has been a big story for the last couple of months, more than the last couple of months. But there are going to be other stories that will be coming up, so follow us at Peek Around the Corner. So subscribe to the channel. We are a completely independent YouTube college football channel. We are the rebel outposts of college football. We will lace into anybody and everybody if we feel that they deserve it, and we'll praise you. We'll praise a conference, a university, a quarterback if we think you deserve it. We are college football. We love everything. We're going to be doing watch parties for spring football games. Spring football games. I treat them like a real football game. The quarterback battles, watching the true freshmen, the early enrollees playing out there. I love it. And if you love it, then subscribe to our channel. And I so much appreciate it. We have a new merchandise store. The link is in the description box. We have a sponsor, Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. Try out their coffee. There's a link in the description box below the video. So thank you all for coming. Let's get right back to your comments, to your phone calls. 763-260-1333. You know what? Let's hold off on the phone calls for just a second. Hold on 1 second here. Hold on. Matthew Carlson, I want to thank you for your super chat. Thank you for your generosity. I appreciate it so much. Yes, second show in one day. Matthew Carlson, thank you. Appreciate it, helping us keep the lights on. Jonathan Weaver, thank you for coming in. Thank you for your super chat donation. Where's the Big Ten with the permanent rivals? Who knows, Jonathan? Who knows? But we think at Peek Around the Corner, it has something to do with the possibility of not even knowing for sure, 100% for sure, how many schools are going to be in your conference in 2024. Because you don't want to do the Michael Scotts at the office. Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. Reversing yourself. You want to do it one time. You want to have that permanent rival list settle in for like 5 years. See how it works. See if it's fair. And then maybe change it up. But you don't want to do a three-team permanent rival in a 16-team conference if there's a 5% chance, a 7% chance, a 2% chance of Oregon and Washington joining your conference by the 2024 season. I think that is playing a part of it. I really do. We have reasons to believe that. But thank you so much for the question, for the donation. Before we get to your phone calls, let's just go through really quick, if I'm able to, if I am smart enough to figure this out. Hold on 1 second. We're going to go through the bullet points real quick. Just give me a moment, everybody. Give me a moment. Max Olson, bullet points on the show this evening with Stu and Bruce, the Audible. Again, a link has been provided in the description box below this video. Lots of conversations during the Big 12 basketball tournament. This is Max Olson discussing this on the show with Stu and Bruce. Big 12 is wondering what the Pac-12 media package will look like, just like the rest of us. They're not sure. They don't know what it's going to look like. Pac-12 presidents haven't seen a comprehensive deal in front of them yet. There's not a lot of spin from Big 12 officials during the Big 12 basketball tournament Max Olson was at, and he was talking to a lot of people. Not a lot of spin. Big 12 officials were not spinning a positive possible outcome. More clarity on the Pac-12 situation should come in the next 2 weeks, according to Max Olson. Targets are Arizona and Colorado. Arizona and Colorado are more nervous about the Pac-12 future than other Four Corners schools. Again, by Max Olson. You want to listen to the whole interview. It's again, we provide the link in the description box. Arizona and Colorado have been the most receptive. Schools initiated the calls to the Big 12. That's one of the rules in realignment. Focus is not on just those 2 schools, but if any of the Pac-12 schools left, it would probably start with Arizona and Colorado. Again, according to Max Olson. Does Arizona buy into Brett Yormark's vision on the basketball side of things? Big 12 looking at to unbundle their basketball content from their football content in 6 to 7 years when they renegotiate their media contract, and believes this will help the value of their Big 12. Colorado is the total wild card, according to Max Olson. Don't know what's going to happen there. He said it over and over again. Colorado Buffaloes is the total wild card in this saga. Max Olson has heavy doubts, though, and any schools leave for the Big 12 because it's realignment and often nothing occurs. Also, the Pac-12 schools do not want to leave each other. Academics, Pac-12 schools don't want to leave Pac-12. They don't want to leave each other, but they might be forced to leave each other. George Kliavkoff needs to cater to Washington and Oregon. Pac-12 country is not saying much of anything to Max Olson, to the reporters out there. But when someone does speak in Pac-12 world, is they believe the media deal will get done, which will be similar to the Big 12 in terms of money. It will be heavily streaming. There are 4 corner schools that are still talking with the Big 12. And that's very important. Big 12 schools, 4 corner schools are still talking with the Big 12. And I know there's people out there who say that's not happening anymore. That's not going on. Well, it is. It is. And then we have Dennis Dodd with the tweet sources. The Big 12 continues to speak weekly to expansion candidates. So that's where we are. I just wanted to go over that real quick. I know there's late arrivals to the shows. The comments are open. The phone line is now back open. So give a call. Unbelievable phone calls tonight. 763-260-1333 is the number. Yeah. If the Big 12 got Arizona and Gonzaga for basketball, that is a scary league. It's already a scary league. Yep.
Call from
Kaufman.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the name. The floor is yours.
Yeah, my name's Kaufman.
Kaufman, all right.
Yeah, I just wanted to call it because you actually answered one of my questions earlier. But with Arizona comes to the Big 12, Arizona State's going to follow, is what I truly believe. And I do believe that Colorado would come back to the Big 12 just to save itself. I mean, that's what they did in 2010 when they left for the Pac-12.
To save itself.
Plus,
yeah, okay.
I mean, they hired Deion Sanders, primetime, to be their head coach. You're not going to have primetime as your head coach if he's not going to be on prime time. Period.
Wow,
and only that, he's got connections back to Texas.
Yes, sir.
And, hey, if Colorado's back in the Big 12, he can recruit Texas a lot easier that way because now the kids have a chance to go back home to play in front of their families and stuff.
Great
and
points.
one of the things I think why Oregon and Washington weren't taken, and this is my own personal belief, I'm not trying to say this is what happened, but the reason Oregon and Washington weren't taken with UCLA and USC was because the commissioner at the time of the Big Ten also wanted Cal and Stanford. And the rest of the schools only wanted Washington and Oregon. Because Cal and Stanford, to me, have kind of given up on their athletics and focused mainly on their academics. Well, why bring in this dead weight that's going to get paid for athletics when they're not going to do anything with their athletics? And that's just my own personal opinion. I mean, yeah, historically, and it's sad to see Stanford doesn't have a football team or a basketball team. Because I remember when the Big 12 and the Pac-12 played Hardwood Challenge. Stanford had some really good teams back in those days. And now all they really got is their women's basketball to stand on.
Great comments. I mean, look, Coffin's right. I mean, right in the sense that Colorado went and got Deion Sanders. They're giving them money they didn't even really have in their athletic budget. When they signed Deion Sanders, they didn't quite know where they were going to get the money. You're right. They got to pay for these. They have a chance to get these prime time players. Not. They need NIL. They need their boosters to put in money for the NIL collectives.
And that's the thing. And if you go to streaming, all these schools, if they stay with the Pac-12, they're going to get the money for the media rights, yes. Yeah. But they're going to lose corporate partners. They're going to lose sponsorships and the people that put money in outside of the media market because, hey, guess what? You're not being seen on live television. Why am I going to give you money when nobody's going to see our ad in your stadium or in your building? Yeah. It doesn't pay. I mean, yes, academics is a great thing for schools and for students. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the athletics. The athletics get paid by the media rights deal, not by the academic, research money. They have to get their money otherwise. And if they can't get it, how can you have an athletic program? And it's sad. Like I said, it's sad to see what happened to Cal and Stanford. Because I remember growing up, you always heard about Cal and Stanford, both football and in basketball. And here recently in the past few years, you really haven't heard anything. You've heard about all the, most of the other schools. And it makes perfect sense for Colorado, and especially Arizona, to come to the Big 12 because Arizona is more of a basketball school than it is a football school. And why wouldn't you want your basketball program in the best conference in college basketball? And it also moves your time zone to where you're going to be seen more relevant by the East Coast because none of those East Coast guys are staying up to watch these games that are happening at 10, 11 o'clock Eastern time. They're in bed. They got work the next day.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And that's I've been wanting to call in and talk to you, but you kind of answered the one question I had because I'd heard Arizona State say that they've given Arizona, if you want to leave, we will follow. Yeah. And you pretty much stated that earlier.
Yeah. And we've been stating that since January 31st. Arizona State will not move. Yeah. So.
Yep, that's what I think that's where I heard it was on your guys' show. I got into the show late, so I had to watch the first part to catch up to where you were, and because I was watching another show that I always watch from about 4 to 7 my time because I'm in Central Standard Time Zone. And when I caught on and saw that, I'm like, oh, I got to call in on this one because, I mean, the athletic media rights pay for the athletic programs. You don't get NIL, you don't get sponsorships, you don't get boosters for the programs if they can't see it. And like the players, you're not going to get big-time players going to places where they're going to be on streaming. I mean, they can get agents down. The agent's just going to say, whoa, wait. You don't want to go there. You're not going to be seen. If you want to make the big monies in the pros, you've got to come over here and be on TV where everybody can see you.
Yes.
I mean, that's what's going to happen. You're going to see, all the schools, if they take the media rights deal that's mainly streaming, you will not hear anything about those schools out in the Pac-12. And it's sad. But that's the truth of the situation.
Yeah.
So Hey, great show. I know you were on twice. I watched the earlier one. I went back and played it because for some reason my notifications didn't go off. But you do a bang-up job, and you give us the information you have, and you just try to let the information speak for itself.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
So keep up the good work, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. Bye.
Incredible call. Thank you so very much. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. I really do. One thing about Arizona State that's kind of a tricky situation. We talked about how Arizona State wouldn't move until Arizona moved. We talked about that starting January 3rd, 31st. For those who are been with us all this time, you know the whole story. We don't have to get into it. Arizona State guy's been nailing it. But Max Olson brought it up in the Audible on his show today. And, you know, Michael Crow's been the president there at Arizona State for a long time. He was the key supporter of Larry Scott. Michael Crow, the president of Arizona State, when the Pac-12 has discussed possible expansion in the past regarding these Big 12 schools, did President Crow support any of that expansion? I don't know. I don't think he did, according to what Max Olson just said. So here's a president of a university who's been there longer than anybody in the Pac-12 saying no to these Big 12 schools because these Big 12 schools did not reach the academic or research standards of what the president of Arizona State would have liked. And now the script has been flipped. And here's the president of Arizona State thinking, well, geez, I've been saying no to these guys, and now I'm going to say yes to going to their conference. You got to understand, the human part of this is also very important. And plus, you know, Arizona State research has shot up. They don't want to leave the Pac-12. And again, that's why Arizona State Money Perch guy has been saying Arizona State's not going to leave first. It's going to be, what is Arizona going to do? They're going to be the ones that lead out. If we go out, they're going to lead us out. And according to these ports, Arizona still in communication with the Big 12. Back to your phone calls. I just wanted to make that point. Phone number 763-260-1333. The phone calls have been incredible tonight. And it always is, don't get me wrong, but my goodness, holy smokes. Unbelievable phone calls. Monavision, Greg, let us speculate and get us hammered. Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. Drink responsible. Get your Cloak and Dagger official PATC official mug at our merchandise store. It's cfbpatc.com. The link is in the description box. Check it out. Okay. Michael Crow went to Iowa State.
Call from
Gary Ford.
Gary, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir.
Hey, Greg, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of an echo there.
The floor is yours. Thanks for calling.
Yep, you got to turn me down. Turn me down.
Greg, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of an echo there.
Okay. So one point that people are not bringing up is the Pac-12 getting a media deal is just the first step, and it's quite possibly the easiest step they're going to be going through. They're still going to have to determine unequal revenue sharing. They're going to need to talk about access to the national games on ESPN. The teams that, if there's only 12 games a year on ESPN, and Oregon gets 4 of them, Washington gets 5 of them, then what does that relegate Arizona State to? Where are those games. They're all going to be streaming. And so once they get into those topics, that's when the real fractures are going to come into play. It's not the TV deal. Everybody believes that they'll get anywhere between 25 and 30 million a year. We don't, no one's disputing that. But what's going to happen is once they get that 28 million, now Stanford is going to say we want unequal revenue sharing because our Olympic sports are special and we win the most championships, so we should get a bigger share of the 28 million because of our Olympic sports. Arizona's going to say, well, because of our basketball. And then that's when the feelings are really going to get hurt, is when you start going in there, and it's going to be basically create a knife fight for the 28 million and who gets the majority share. And clearly Washington and Oregon believe that they should get the lion's share, but that doesn't the other schools still have those egos. You know, Stanford's still not going to allow Arizona to get more money because they have a better basketball program. It's just, we're just at the tip of the iceberg. The TV deal is the easy part. Now, once that's done, everyone is going to just kind of get their knives out and go at.
Gary, let me jump in here and I'll give you more time, okay?
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And I made this point early last week, the week prior to last week. You're absolutely correct. Last week, early on, it was a Tuesday that they were meeting. This was before the Pac-12 basketball tournament. We said a peek around the corner. We had live shows like on that Saturday night, that Monday night. And then when Tuesday happened, when Wednesday happened, we were poking around on Tuesday on Twitter. We made a comment on Wednesday on Twitter that it did not go well. That some schools did not like what happened last week. Okay? The reason they didn't like what happened was because they didn't get a comprehensive deal in front of them. And that's what their expectations, so they could hash it out in the next couple weeks. Exactly what you said, Gary. You didn't use the word hash it out, but there's so many issues you got to go through. And so that's why they wanted a comprehensive options in front of them last week. And you know what? They didn't get it.
And they haven't even got to the part where egos are going to come into play.
Yeah.
And once you start telling one team they're worth less than the other, that's when the fractions are going to come. And the leaks are going to come from there.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Greg. Really appreciate your show, and you took 4 hours of my day, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Well, that's what I say. If you are new to the show, or if you're watching the show and you haven't subscribed, you have to subscribe because we can be coming on at any time and you have a chance to get notified that we're going to pop on. You got to keep your head on a swivel if you're inside the Peek Around the Corner community. Thanks for coming in. Thanks. A lot of people watching the second show for today. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. A lot of the phone calls have been just absolutely ridiculous. Again, the one part of the show that doesn't work is the host. Everything else works. I appreciate you all for coming in. Appreciate it. And another thing, a lot of people are talking about how ESPN, they don't have the money and all this stuff. I think there's layoffs coming. I think we're going to hear pretty soon. There's a story brewing out there about ESPN layoffs. So Pac-12, they got to get this deal done. They don't control whatever the Pac-12 can control. They got to get going on it. The other things, there's so many things they do not control at this point. That's why when people talk about absolutes, when people are saying there's nothing going on behind the scenes that should be cause of any worry, that if you do say anything that's about Pac-12 possibly struggling right now, you must be a part of some sort of endeavor operation. It's just not, none of that is reality. And neither is the reality of Colorado has already signed on to the Big 12, or, Pac-12 is absolutely doomed. There's nothing they can do to save it. Those are the extremes of this saga that's going on. The story is there's so much drama in the true story of it, we don't have to go to the extremes, okay? There's already cloak and dagger. There's real cloak and dagger. The real cloak and dagger is Arizona and Colorado are receptive. They've initiated the calls. They are furthering the phone calls. They haven't said no to the Big 12. Don't stop communicating with us. That's the cloak and dagger. That's the real cloak and dagger. Not this report is lying. 247 Sports is lying. The whole group is lying. That's not the story. That's deflection. That's whatever it is. It don't matter because it's not working. So, okay. Back to your comments. Back to your phone calls. We're not going to talk about We're not going to talk about Big Ten baseball in the chat. We're not going to talk about Big Ten baseball in the chat because of my beloved Golden Gophers. Not going to do that. Yikes. What a terrible season. Terrible season. The banks are, I don't know if the banks are collapsing, but we've got issues in the banking system. A lot of stocks took a hit. They rebounded a little bit during the day, but they took a big hit. We've got a little bit of a recession going on in the media market, some contraction going on. I think we're going to hear news about ESPN here pretty soon. And again, that's why on October 30th, on our show, episode 83, when Brett Yormark, when it became official that the Big 12 got a deal with their current media partners, Fox Sports and ESPN, we said on that show, Yormark, he did it. He struck the deal, and now the Pac-12 needs to hurry up and get their deal done because they just lost the exposure race to the Big 12. Did they lose the revenue race with the Big 12? We don't have the answer to that second part yet, but the first answer is yes, they lost the exposure race. No doubt about it. According to Spitfire, the Dragon TV Love and Positive Light, Big Ten won't add any more Pac-12 schools. Oregon and Washington can beg all they want. They will not get invited. They bring no value. The Big Ten, according to the networks, according to Spitfire, the Dragon TV Love and Positive Light. Thanks for coming in, Spitfire. Appreciate it. Ooh, will do. Okay, the whole ESPN layoff recession narrative is a faulty one. Businesses make investments in good times and bad times. That's true. Very true. If the Pac deal makes investment sense, they'll do it. Very good point. Very good point. Yeah, and we're always back to the Big Ten commissioner. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? And when is it going to be? Is it going to be delayed? Right? We're all expecting middle of April, but what if it takes longer? I don't think it will, but what if it takes longer? I don't think it will, because Turnkey, the consultants, they've gone through, they were the consultants of the previous last couple Power 5 conference commissioner job searches. So they have the list of candidates. They've done the background checks to a lot of these same names. Not all the same names, but a lot of them. So you would think that would help the process, right? So I expect a name here to pop up pretty soon. And man, when that happens, of course, we're going live here at Peek Around the Corner. We're going live. We're gonna dive into it. We're gonna speculate. John Famlor, thanks again for coming in to Peek Around the Corner. I think Oregon and Washington are going to string things out until at least April 17th, when Warren leaves his Big Ten post officially. The timeline might work out for Oregon and Washington. There may be reasons this thing gets kicked down the road without Oregon and Washington even have to delay it. One, maybe the Apple TV and Amazon, if they're still both in the mix, takes a long time. Two, maybe another network joins into the fray. Or maybe one of the networks that are in the mix backs out. That delays it. So, and of course, we have the issue of hashing it out. That's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. Now, for the Pac-12, for those who want to keep that core together, most of those schools do, all of them do. Maybe you need to get this done in the next couple weeks. But hashing it out takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And that is why it was so crucial for at least some of those people that were in the room to have some sort of comprehensive deal placed in front of them. And it did not happen. We reported that Tuesday night. We reported that Wednesday night of last week, according to our Arizona State money perch. And he was accurate on that. He's been accurate on every part of this story so far. Another reason to subscribe to our show, because Arizona State letter number 6, I think, is in the making this evening. We believe we received some steam before the show that the Pac-12 athletic directors have a call-in with each other tonight. So if we get any information on that, we'll put it on Twitter and we'll do an episode or a live show. That's why it's important to subscribe to our channel. We could pop up at any moment. I think we're going to close it up. We've been on the air for over 2 hours, over 4 hours for the whole day. A lot of things going on in college football. I appreciate you all for coming in. Before you leave, again, subscribe to our channel. Share the video with your family and friends. Spread the word of PATC, College Football's Peek Around the Corner. Visit our merchandising store. Get that mug, get that hoodie, get that trucker hat that's out there in our merchandising store. Thanks for all coming in. Unbelievable phone calls this evening. Spectacular. I cannot thank you enough. There's no words to describe the unbelievable PATC community. The college football passion that is in this community is like no other. And I absolutely appreciate it. And so does the little general, the moderator. We thank you so very much. So hang with us. Hang with us, because who knows what's going to pop tomorrow. Because I got a feeling something will. So hang with us. And until next time, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, please, you all take good care of each other. Thank you so very much.